Good evening, everyone. I'm meteorologist Cassie Knoll, and this is your 10 weather impact recap for the week. Today, we're going to take a look back at the month of October. Let's start with a look at some of our top national stories. Even though it doesn't feel like fall here in East Tennessee, it looked like winter last week in Hawaii. Snow fell on the summit area of Mauna Kea just before Halloween. The area got about 2 inches of wintry weather, and that summit sits at about 13,000 feet above sea level. Temperatures can drop below freezing year-round. The mountains of Arizona saw the first snowfall of the season as well. Around October 19th, rain changed into wet snow at about 7,000 feet in elevation in the Flagstaff area. They also got another round of snow last week. These are pictures from Arizona Snow Bowl, a ski resort in the area. And in Colorado, ski season has begun at Wolf Creek. This area is known as the Continental States or Centennial State's snowiest area. It's located in the San Juan Mountains along the Continental Divide in southern Colorado. From October 17th to 20th, more than 24 inches of snow fell in the area. And Minneapolis, Minnesota received their first snow of the season last month as the month came to a close. They saw snowfall on Halloween, October 31st. That snow set the record for the wettest October 31st in the Twin Cities. There was more than an inch of rain and snow, surpassing the record of 1/8 of an inch set back in 1991. And here in East Tennessee, Mount LeConte had their second earliest measurable snow on record last month. On October 16th, Mount LeConte received almost 4 inches of snow. Temperatures were in the 20s the next morning, but all that wintry weather melted quickly with the warm temperatures we had to finish off the month. And besides the wintry weather last month, on October 10th, people across the southeast were treated to a show in the sky. The northern lights were visible as far south as Alabama as a strong geomagnetic storm impacted Earth's atmosphere. This was the second time this year that we've seen the northern lights this far south. And across East Tennessee, we also saw peak fall foliage colors. We had 1 week of below average temperatures during the month of October, and that was enough to get those leaves changing. This is a look from our tower camera at Sharps Ridge, and we can see that a lot of the trees are starting to turn dark brown, and even a few of them beginning to lose their leaves. So let's take a look at the current fall foliage maps. Where you see this dark color, that means that we've passed peak in a good portion of southern Appalachia, but still around the Knoxville area, we've got high color, and we're seeing that up onto the plateau near the Crossville area as well. But I gave you this wide view because we're seeing peak foliage all the way down into North Georgia and into South Carolina, and even moderate color as far south as the Atlanta area. But as I said, here in East Tennessee, right around the central Southern Valley and up onto the plateau, we currently have peak or starting to get past peak colors as we start to see those leaves beginning to fall off. And by this time next week, we'll be past peak in almost all of East Tennessee. So enjoy those fall colors while we still have them. Of course, when we have wind, that's also when we start to see the leaves falling off. Now, October was also spent recovering from 2 major hurricanes. Hurricane Helene made landfall at the end of September, and areas impacted are still in the process of cleaning up and rebuilding. Helene made landfall in the Big Bend of Florida on September 26th. The system then moved northward and weakened across Georgia, northwest South Carolina, western North Carolina, and East Tennessee. Helene brought devastating wind damage and catastrophic rainfall to these areas. The mountain communities of East Tennessee and western North Carolina were hit hard by the flooding. And that flooding caused widespread damage to roads and bridges. Both I-40 and I-26 were closed between Tennessee and North Carolina. On October 22nd, Tennessee transportation officials reopened I-40 in Cocke County to local traffic only, meaning commercial vehicles are not allowed to drive on that road. Traffic is open 1 lane in each direction, and it's still closed on the North Carolina side. Transportation officials there don't have an estimate of when that portion of I-40 will reopen. Also, TDOT reopened I-26 in Upper East Tennessee at the end of October. Flooding from Hurricane Helene washed out 2 bridges on I-26 in Irwin. You can see that before and after images in these pictures here. TDOT crews spent the last month working to reopen part of that road, and they said they have removed enough debris to fill Neyland Stadium at a depth up to 3 feet above the goalposts. I-26 is open to passenger vehicles and commercial truck traffic, except for wide loads. Any trucks bigger than 12 feet in width still have to follow the detour using I-81 and I-77. On October 17th, Pete Buttigieg visited the River Arts District in Asheville, then traveled into Tennessee to see the damage on I-40. The Federal Highway Administration has given $32 million to TDOT and $100 million to NCDOT to begin work on temporary fixes. Buttigieg says long-term, it's going to take billions of dollars to fix crucial pathways like I-40 and I-26. He says that money for rebuilding will need bipartisan support from Congress in January.
We know that that's not something that can be done overnight, but we have been working with North Carolina's DOT, with TDOT and others to help make sure we have whatever workarounds and temporary fixes are possible in the immediate term, while providing the support that's going to be needed for the medium to long term to get back to normal.
NCDOT says the estimated repair time for I-40 is currently unknown. On Monday, sections of I-40 around downtown Asheville were reopened, but areas toward the Tennessee state line remain closed. Most of western North Carolina roads are still noted as essential travel only by state leaders. It's been 1 month since Unicoi County Hospital was rocked by flooding. Patients and workers were left stranded by the rushing floodwaters from Hurricane Helene, and more than 50 people were rescued from the hospital roof. Reporter Maria Guzman spoke with a family member whose loved one was rescued and talks about what comes next for the county hospital.
September 27, 2024 is a day Catherine and Jeff Bowen say they'll never forget.
Water was just gushing in.
That's because this was the view her husband was witnessing.
My husband was on top of a roof.
Catherine had taken her husband to Unicoi County Hospital the morning of the flood. She went home to pick up necessities when the flooding water separated the duo.
I had no idea that the hospital was in the condition it was in.
This is Jeff in an inflatable lifeboat. According to the hospital, 70 people were rescued from the roof of the hospital.
But my husband was there, and the other patients, they were in those boats for hours.
She says Unicoi County Hospital plays a key role in the Irwin community.
We're not the largest county, but we've got a lot of elderly people here.
In a statement, a spokesperson for Ballad Health, which operates the hospital, says in the wake of Hurricane Helene, which rendered Unicoi County Hospital unusable after severe flooding, Ballad Health continues to serve the community with critical healthcare services.
The damage is something like I've never seen before.
To meet the health needs of neighbors in the area, Ballad Health Medical Associates launched a 24/7 advanced urgent care clinic in Unicoi County.
Businesses in Henderson County, North Carolina are in need of tourism dollars after Hurricane Helene swept through western parts of the state. County officials report that tourists pay more than a quarter of the county's sales tax. Now with the storm damage, small businesses are seeing a steep loss in revenue. Reporter Peyton Furtado tells us how that area prepares for the busy season during the peak of fall foliage.
That's the bulk of their income. So when you take that out, it's kind of like Macy's closing down for the Christmas season.
Officials say tourists pay more than a quarter of Henderson County's sales tax. Come Helene and high water, businesses were still ready, many barely impacted by the storm.
Here at Steps Hillcrest Family Orchard, you can probably see a lot of the fruit is untouched here on the trees. Unfortunately, the big picture of the damage here in western North Carolina has had a large local impact.
Mike Stepp says they shut down for a month.
The road leading into our orchard on either end of our driveway were washed out.
After the road was rebuilt, the farm, bakery, and family destination reopened last weekend. But some damage was already done.
Yeah, the impact that we have experienced from that, it could probably amount to 50% of our revenue for the year.
5 minutes down the road, St. Paul's Winery says 800 people used to pour in every day.
Well, unfortunately, other than the weekends, it's really been off about 70 to 80%.
Other than minor equipment damage, the farm and winery were fine. But Alan Ward worries about long-term impacts stemming from the storm.
It's a tight rope where you walk each year to get that big influx in your season in order to get you through to next year to where you have the funds to buy the supplies you need.
Some farms like Steps Hillcrest are adapting, staying open longer.
We feel like if we're open, it's going to give them a better chance to come maybe right here in the end to still experience us this year.
The North Carolina Forest Service completed an aerial forest land damage assessment after Helene. The assessment is an estimate of damage to timber resources. They estimate 822,000 acres of timberland were damaged. This resulted in $214 million of timber damage on all North Carolina forest lands. Officials say 78% of that is private land, 21% is public, and 1% is reserved land. The heaviest damage was confined to a 6-county area with Buncombe and McDowell counties at the center. TVA's Nolichucky Dam handled historic amounts of water after Helene hit, but damage was only minor. In the worst flooding from Helene, the dam took 1.3 million gallons of water per second. We're calling that the little dam that could. 10 News reporter Olivia Daig went to Greenville to learn how the century-old dam survived catastrophic flooding and saved lives.
The Nolichucky Dam is over 100 years old, and during the most flooding that's ever seen, it remained intact, saving millions of dollars of damage and lives. TVA is continuing to monitor what they call superficial and minor damage to the Nolichucky Dam. After 2 months worth of rain in 3 days, this dam sustained the most water ever recorded.
It overtopped that non-overflow section by 5 feet. So you can see people standing on top of the dam, so assume they're right around 6 feet tall, so you can see how much water was coming over.
Water was so high, TVA pulled employees off the top of the dam and told people and authorities things could be dangerous. Some technology to monitor conditions was damaged.
So we didn't have eyes on the dam anymore. We didn't have the upstream gauge to say, hey, how much higher that water's going, or is it coming down? Out of abundance of precaution, let's make that decision and go there to that condition red.
Once levels subsided and they opened some floodgates, the alert expired. TVA says this dam essentially spared the region of an estimated $406 million worth of flood damage. The flooding would have stretched to Lenoir City, Chattanooga, and even South Pittsburgh. Over the next 6 to 9 months, TVA crews are still going to be hard at work inspecting the damages here and making sure this dam is safe. Reporting in Greene County, I'm Olivia Daig.
TVA leaders say conversations are ongoing to prepare the dam for the future. Right now, they say the focus is on restoring it to normal conditions, which could take a year, maybe 2. Just 2 weeks after Helene, Hurricane Milton made landfall near Siesta Key, Florida on October 9th as a Category 3 storm, meaning Florida was hit by 2 major hurricanes in less than 2 weeks. The storm killed at least 35 people, 3 of those in Mexico and 32 in the U.S. The storm caused widespread damage on Florida's Gulf Coast beaches. Milton became the 5th strongest Atlantic hurricane on record. NOAA added Milton to the 2024 $1 billion weather and climate disaster total. The storm damaged the home of the Tampa Bay Rays baseball team, Tropicana Field. Last week, the city of St. Petersburg City Council voted to approve nearly $6.9 million for the cleanup and repair of Tropicana Field. You're looking at video of the ballpark, which was heavily damaged during Hurricane Milton. The City Council approved a pair of resolutions to allocate funds for the construction and waterproofing of certain areas of the ballpark and for remediation services. Before rebuilding efforts can begin, teams have to focus on cleaning mountains of debris still lining streets in Florida. Local officials say the removal is too much for regular trash pickup, and they're struggling to find more contractors to finish the job.
It's just frustrating that we was told that we were going to have it picked up right after, Milton came through, and it's been weeks.
Local officials are urging patience as they continue cleaning up the damage, and in Georgia, Governor Brian Kemp extended a state of emergency for counties hardest hit by Hurricane Helene. Now let's take a look back at what we saw here in East Tennessee during the month of October. As you can see, a lot of red on this map. That indicates where we had above average temperatures, but we did have that 1 week of below average temperatures where it felt cool and crisp, and that was just enough to trigger those fall leaves to start to change. And then we had a beautiful finish to the month as far as the leaves were concerned, although the temperatures were a little more similar of something we would see probably in September. We also had a high of 81 degrees on Halloween, which was one of the top 5 warmest Halloweens on record for the Knoxville area. Now, as far as rainfall goes, there was hardly any of it. All the yellow you see on that map indicates dry days. We only had 2 days with measurable rainfall through the entire month, which gave us the 4th driest October on record and the 5th driest overall month that we have ever seen at the McGee-Tyson Airport. We only had 0.08 of an inch of rainfall. And then thankfully we had a little bit of rain as we started off the month of November. And speaking of November, this is when we start to see our average rainfall totals bumping up. Now that's heavily loaded toward the back end of the month. We tend to be dry during the first half of November, and then you see those rainfall totals start to ramp up as we move toward the winter season, with winter and spring being our two wettest seasons of the year. As far as temperatures go, November is also the final month of meteorological fall. Average temperatures are continuing to fall, going from the mid-60s to the mid-50s. But we don't have any average temperatures in our forecast through about the middle of the month. The outlook overall for the month of November from the Climate Prediction Center shows confidence in having above average temperatures. That doesn't mean that we won't have cool snaps. It just means that overall, we're going to end up above average likely for the month, and we have equal chances of above or below average precipitation. Like I said, it tends to be a little more loaded toward the backside of things, so we'll see how the month ends up shaping up as we get a little bit deeper into it. But looking at our 7-day forecast, not a lot of rain to come. Those rainfall chances on Wednesday and Thursday with the next front moving into the area are continuing to decrease. The best chances are going to be up on our plateau counties and in southeast Kentucky, but I think a lot of our area may miss out on that rain for the middle of the week. And then another system is forecast to move into the region as we go toward the weekend and into early next week. As of right now, we also might get a little bit of tropical moisture coming up to help increase those rain chances. So check back for updates to the forecast as we get closer to that time frame. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, you can always get the latest forecast with the 10 News app. It's free to download in the App Store.